recently I sent out an invitation to all my mailing list and everybody who listens and watches this channel to ask me anything. And I received lots of questions, but it's amazing how often these two questions that I'm going to speak about today came up in the questions. So thank you very much if you were one of the people who sent me a question. So if you're ready, without further ado, let's get straight into it. If this is your first visit here, or if you have watched other videos of mine and seen value in the content, please click the like button and subscribe to the channel. By subscribing, you are letting the algorithm know that it needs to reach more people like you, professionals with busy lifestyles looking to improve their language skills independently, autonomously, in a holistic way, and bring more confidence and fluency to your English. And if we haven't met yet, my name is Tanya Meyer, founder of the Confident English Training Program, operating at the intersection between efficient language acquisition and use, the practice of awareness raising, and increased levels of happiness and well-being. What's not to love? Okay, so let's dive straight into it with question number one, which is, Tanya, where are you from? If I could count the number of times people have asked me where I'm from, well, what can I say? It would take a long time for me to count. Everybody asks me, where are you from? And it doesn't matter where I am. I could be here where I live in Mexico, I could be in the UK, or anywhere in the world. People immediately notice that my English is quite clear. You know, oh, your English is quite clear. Where are you from? Where are you from? So I'm going to answer that question right now. You know, it's natural for us to want to know where others are from, especially if we have the slightest inkling that they are not from where we're from, or if they're from a different place. We immediately want to know, where are you from? Where are you from? Where are you from? And just so you know, in England, where are you from might not mean what country were you born in, but it might just mean, where do you live? So in England, we can answer that question with, oh, London, oh, Oxford, Manchester, whatever city we live in, or wherever we consider home. But I have to say that more and more these days, with globalization and people moving from one place to the other, it's very common for people who look one way to consider themselves to be from another place. I mean, there is so much migration, going on in the world, that although it's true that most of us are born and raised in a particular country, and our parents and ancestors are also from that particular country, and if that's the case with you, then you're very lucky. But some of us are born to parents who are not from the same place, so already there might be, well, I don't really know, and then they might be born in the country of one of the parents, or a different country altogether. There are people who are born in a country, but then they're raised at sea, in international waters. So what do we consider those people, or what do they consider themselves? So I think that the culture that we most identify with is the one that we say, oh, I'm from there. Although, I mean, you'll see what I mean. But also the question of accent comes into play. For example, here in Mexico, the Mexican accent is different in different parts of the country, but it's distinguishable from other accents, other Spanish-speaking accents. And so sometimes we might not even need to ask where the person is from, because we immediately detect from the accent that they're from Spain, or they're from Argentina, or they're from another Spanish-speaking country, Cuba, or something like that, which is those accents in particular are quite easily distinguishable. Just like, for example, in English, the Scottish accent is very easy to distinguish. The Irish accent and the Welsh, they're very different from each other. They're all English, but to the English ear, it's very easy to identify them. So if somebody comes along like myself who doesn't fall into those categories, is not definitely Scottish, Irish, Welsh, English, or American, then it's like, well, where are you from, right? And I do get a lot of that. And it also happens that people might say, oh, I'm from, for example, I'm from London. And then because of the way people look, they might get the question, oh, okay, you're from London, but where are your parents from? Because you don't look like my idea of what English people look like. But that, thankfully, all of that is changing. And if you live in the UK, especially in London, then you just take it for granted that if somebody tells you that they're from Manchester, from Glasgow, from Edinburgh, from Leeds, from London, then that's where they grew up. So that's the culture that they identify with. So about me, I am Peruvian by birth. I was born in Peru. My mother was Peruvian, as was her mother, but her father, my grandfather, was English. So basically, my Peruvian grandmother married an Englishman. They had 7 children. My mother was the youngest. My mother then married an Englishman. So my father is English as well. 3 of my 4 grandparents were English. So although I am Peruvian by birth, and I'm very proudly Peruvian, there are lots of things about Peru that I really love, I'm not very familiar with Peru because we left as a family when I was 6 years old, and I've only returned to Peru a handful of times since then. So if you think, oh, she's Peruvian, so that must mean that... No, it doesn't mean that. In fact, when I go to Peru and I tell everybody I'm Peruvian, they say, no, you're not. No, you're not. You don't sound Peruvian. You don't look very Peruvian. So, yes, by birth, I am Peruvian. But my nationality is English. I was always sent to British schools. I have a British education. When I was 30, even though I lived in Latin America the whole of my growing up, in Peru, in Brazil, and in Mexico, I did move to the UK when I was 30, and I lived in the UK for the best part of 10 years. I trained to become an English teacher in the UK, and so my nationality is British. I'm Peruvian by birth, and I'm British by nationality. I hope that answers your question and satisfies your curiosity. And yeah, so that's how it is. I didn't say this when I was explaining, but just to reiterate then, because I want to use some English here, my mother was Peruvian, and she married an Englishman. She married an Englishman. She didn't marry with an Englishman. In English, we don't marry with people. We just marry people. And then we can say, I am married to him. I am married to her, but not with. Okay? What about you? I'd love to hear where you are from. Drop me a comment below and let me know where you were born and raised, or if you have a similar story to mine, I'd love to hear that too. Right, next question. It is, why do you speak so much about mindfulness, and how is mindfulness relevant to improving my English? Well, that is an excellent question. The first thing that comes to mind is that mindfulness has been absolutely instrumental in me transforming my own life. So because it has helped me so much, then I know, and not only me, mindfulness is an ancient practice. It's been around for thousands of years, and it has helped countless people. But because I have experienced so much benefit from the practice, then I know that whoever engages with the practice seriously, or with commitment, will definitely benefit as well. In my case, I transformed my life from being lost in sadness and frustration and confusion, consumption. So being lost in those things, to deep appreciation, spaciousness, joy, understanding. And I've come to see that mindfulness is the key to successful living. And by successful, what I mean is the simple ability to actually enjoy this precious, miraculous moment in which we are here alive on this planet. How much of our time is wasted and lost because we are consumed with thoughts of sadness, of fear, worry, anxiety, frustration, and all of those mental states which are not conducive to enjoying what is there supporting us. So the more you engage with mindfulness practices, the more you step onto this path which conduces to a virtuous cycle opposed to a vicious cycle, which goes the other way when you fall into thoughts of sadness and anger and other unwholesome states. So in your case, how do you prefer to make progress in English? Do you prefer to make progress in a state of spaciousness, of freedom, of relaxation, of enjoyment? Or do you prefer to make progress in tension and pressure and confusion, distraction, and stress? So in the first instance, I talk about mindfulness so much because the practice changes the landscape of our mind. It brings great clarity, and it transforms our mindset. From the very beginning, we experience relief from our afflictions and freedom from worry and fear. With regular practice, we start appreciating this freedom and clarity, and we see it more and more deeply in our lives every day. One of the premises of my English training program is that much of the stress and fear and anxiety that people experience when they're trying to use English in their own context isn't so much based around their ability to use English, but the fact that there is so much judgment of themselves and of others when they try and interact. And of course, if you feel that people are judging you, or if you are judging yourself when you try and interact in English, then how is that going to work? So in my program, we don't talk about mindfulness, we don't read about mindfulness, we don't discuss it because, of course, many books have been written about it. And like I said earlier, this is an ancient practice that goes back thousands of years. But what we do in my program is that we sit down and we actually practice mindfulness together on a weekly basis. And this is because I can tell you, for example, what mango tastes like. I can tell you that it's very sweet, and I can try and think of adjectives that describe the taste of mango. But until the day that you taste mango for yourself, you will not really know what mango tastes like, no matter how many people describe it to you. So mindfulness is a little bit like that. Until the time that you sit down and experience the benefits of the practice, then whatever you think about it, whatever you read about it, whatever you know about it, will not only be not it, but might also and will probably be a distorted version of what it is. Because what it is cannot be put into words. It can only be experienced. But what we can put into words is the effect or the benefits of practicing, which then spill over into everything we do, including making progress with English. So another reason why I talk a lot about mindfulness is because it helps us become more skillful at managing difficulty, because we become less reactive. As the more we practice, the more skillful we become at managing moment-to-moment experience, then we are less likely to react to English, and more likely to engage with it in a skillful way, to be patient, to be kind, to have a friendly attitude towards it. All of these benefits come from practicing and observing our experience. Observing our experience also makes us more patient. You know, we're not so in this world where we just click a button and something is downloaded, or we look for a word and there's the meaning. We're constantly expecting instant gratification. This is a word from psychology, from my days studying psychology. Instant or immediate gratification. There's a lot of that these days with apps and technology and AI, for example. All of that bringing instant or immediate gratification. But you know, it's dangerous to rely only on that, because there is a deeper aspect of life that brings great joy, which is delaying gratification. But in order to be able to delay it, we need to practice. We need to stop and not be constantly seeking immediate gratification. We need to stop and look at things more deeply. Okay, why else do I wax lyrical about mindfulness practices, and especially being aware of how the benefits of the practice can be applied to our language skills development? And it is because the practice has brought motivation and inspiration to create my own program. How many English teachers do you know who have created their own program to help language learners develop their language skills more effectively? Few teachers do that, because it's easier to grab English teaching materials and teach English. That is easier than inviting people to stop, to observe their own experience, to become calmer, to become more joyful, more relaxed, and to incorporate English naturally into their day-to-day life for true confidence and fluency. If this is something that interests you, I'm going to leave a link in the description box for you to contact me directly, book a consultation call to talk about your situation, where you are with your English and where you want to be, or you can just click on this QR code to go directly to the booking page. A few more benefits about incorporating mindfulness into your day-to-day life, and the reason why I talk about it so much is that mindfulness helps us with our ability to focus and concentrate. We live in a world of distractions, as I said before. If it isn't our mobile phone going off, then it's an email that came in. There's all this social media to look at. There's the Twitter sphere, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of these platforms that just are really compelling. But by counteracting this impulse to be constantly distracted, we can really develop our ability to focus and concentrate, which are qualities that we need in order to develop our language skills, right? Our memory is also improved with mindfulness practices, as well as the fact that we become better decision makers, because with mindfulness practices, we look at things more deeply, we become more discerning, and so that helps us know what to do, how to move forward with our language development plan, and what not to do, and when to stop, and how often to engage with English. Another reason that I'd like to share in this video, although there are many more reasons, is the fact that before becoming a practitioner, I used to walk around the world without much room for anything else because my mind was full. My mind was full with all my worries, all my concerns, all my to-do list, everything that happened, all my worries, yes, my fears, my anxieties. So this is exactly what is happening with most of the people who approach me interested in joining my program, because most of us are in that state of perpetual fragmentation and confusion, stress and anxiety, one way or the other, because we are not taking the time to stop and observe our experience moment to moment. So when we don't do that, then we live in a world in which we are caught in what Buddhist traditions call samsara, the everyday dissatisfaction with life, always comparing ourselves, always angry or frustrated or reactive. And mindfulness practices help us to counteract that. And we don't need to be sitting, in mindfulness or in meditation all day. It's not like that. We can incorporate, and yes, we should incorporate mindfulness meditation practices into our everyday life, but not for hours and hours. That is not necessary. We sit down for a few minutes, we practice together and on our own, and immediately we see the benefits. So instead of being caught in these mental afflictions where all day long I'm turning ideas round and round in my head, and they tend to be repetitive ideas, the same ideas, with mindfulness practices, I'm free from those mental afflictions. I'm free. There's more spaciousness. There's more freedom in my life. And of course, with more freedom, then there is more opportunity to to live my life more deeply and to be more effective in whatever I do. And so I was able to create my program. And within the people who are in my program are also finding more freedom in their lives to be able to do the things that they want to do, to incorporate English into their life more naturally, more holistically, more casually even, and more effectively, because they are more relaxed and less stressed, less worried. So I think I'm going to leave this video here for now. There are many questions I haven't answered. I probably will be filming another Ask Me Anything video later down the line. And if you found value in this video, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this video with your friends, and I will see you in the next video. Take very good care until then. Bye for now.